sorry for that slow start. We're on it now. So this is the agenda that I have built for our talk today. It's really, really, really a great blend of strategic and tactical. So you'll see how both of those things sort of play together. The ultimate goal for me at the end of this session is that you will understand really clearly, not just like why each channel, like why you're doing what you're doing, but also like how to evaluate new opportunities. So if it becomes about like, you know, we can answer questions like, do we have to be on Facebook? And how often do I need to send an email newsletter? And right, these like very, very, very tactical questions, they're being informed by some really smart audience strategies. So that's how what we're going to build today. And you'll see, I'm going to start with a little prologue on the personas, but then we're going to talk about, there's 3 different steps for prioritizing. And I've got a bunch of tools I'm going to show you too. And it's a Google Docs, Google Sheets template that you can use. So you'll have access to it too if you want it. Okay. Channel evaluation, creating pathways. Some of you guys might be familiar with the idea of like a marketing flywheel. So we'll talk about that. And then the last step is really just like some practical advice of like, when I'm working with my clients, here's how we approach these things to get the best results with the least amount of work. Because that's really where we're at, right? So, okay. Now I will introduce myself. Here's me. These are organizations I am associated with. Really, for me, I'm a marketer because I think that helping purpose-driven entrepreneurs and underrepresented entrepreneurs is a really important part of pursuing equality and justice. So for me, it's about helping small organizations that are doing well in the world, small organizations that are led by underrepresented founders. If we can get those organizations to be more successful, then the world becomes a safer and more just place. So that's where I'm coming from. But you know what? Good marketing is good marketing. So let's get into it. Okay. Before we go any farther, all of my work is always sort of built around your personas. So if you don't already have your personas well identified, I want to just talk really briefly about what that might look like. But getting clear on your marketing personas and on their journey is going to be just essential to making sure that that all your marketing is as efficient as possible, right? You got to know who you're talking to. You got to know what offer they need to hear from you. And then that opens up the opportunity for you to really get pinpoint precision on how you reach out to them. So real quick, we're not going to belabor this because this really isn't the thing we're here to do today, right? Here's what we would aim for. If we're looking at personas, right? We would imagine a dozen characters, a dozen individual humans who all engage with you in the same way. They all engage based on the same behavior or motivation. And so we can put them in a category. We'll call them a marketing persona, right? Ideally, they're based on your observed experience, not aspirational or theoretical. Ideally, they have a clear connection to your bottom line. So they might not be your customer, but they might be the people that introduce you to your customer, right? That might be an essential persona for you, especially if you're in the B2B space. That happens a lot, right? But you sort of take all of the characteristics of those 12 individuals, look for the things that are similar across all of them, and then those are the characteristics that your persona has. The thing that you want to be really careful with is not assigning too much value to some of these more easily observed characteristics, right? We don't want to focus too much on demographic or job categories, aspirational personas. You don't want to differentiate too much and focus on details that aren't relevant to the buying experience. None of those things, age, gender, race, job title, etc., none of those things are relevant unless they directly influence motivation and behavior. So it's really about this other side of why do they engage and what are they trying to accomplish and how can we help them do that? Okay, so with that context, now let's actually talk about some prioritizing and planning. And I want to, before I dig into the actual tactics of the thing, I want to tell you a story about Japanese gardens. So if you've ever been to a Japanese garden, they're pretty exceptional, right? They're incredibly thoughtful environments. And one thing that you'll notice is as you're walking through it, most of the pathways are incredibly clean, right? They're wide and they're flat and there are geometric lines, and it makes it very easy for you to follow the path while you are enjoying the view, right? With your head up, looking around and taking it all in. And that's by design, because there are other parts of the pathways that are very specifically not that way, right? This is an example of, in Japanese, is mirekakure. And what that means is hide and reveal. So here, what you see are these rough-hewn stepping stones, right? They are at different elevations. They are different sizes. They are almost always going up or going down an incline. So the combination of all those things means, guess what? You got to keep your eyes on your feet, because if you're not looking at your feet, you're going to end up on the ground. So they do this on purpose. So your eyes are on your feet as they are stepping from stone to stone. And then when you get to the bottom of the stone pathway, it will clear out. It will become that same flat path that you were used to already. And so when you raise your eyes to look for the first time, you'll see this incredible view. And it was there the whole time. You just didn't see it because your eyes were on your feet, right? So this is really how I want us to think about our marketing. That if we are careful about laying those stepping stones with the right messages at the right channels in exactly the place where our audiences want to go, right? We know the path they are going to follow to become a customer. So we lay out those stepping stones so that when they get to the end of the pathway and they lift up their eyes, we become the obvious and easy choice, right? It's like we are the thing that is in plain sight because our marketing was so thoughtful and considerate the whole way. So that's sort of the metaphor of how I think about really good, empathetic, multi-channel marketing. So let's talk about it. Like, how do we actually get there? Okay. First things first. Actually, I'm going to check the chat really quick just to make sure. No Q&A. Okay, good. So first things first, let's talk tactics, right? Where do we need to show up to increase our opportunity with our audiences? Here's what this is going to look like. We're going to do a channel evaluation, acknowledging that each persona has their own pathways. Each persona will have probably a different set of channels that they use or channels that they use in a different way. Remember, the thing that differentiates a persona is behavior and motivation. So this is the behavior question for this person, right? So each persona gets their own path. We're going to take a bunch of time to understand that path, right? In order to thoughtfully provide content and experiences in the place where they need to go. I'm just going to interrupt myself really quick, tell you this one tiny little anecdote from a client that I was working with last week. We did all of the empathy planning work, right? We understood this audience member's journey, all of the questions they were having along the way. And the client came to me and said, we built this landing page with all of these answers to these questions and nobody's converting on the form. And so I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Let's go look at it. We go look at it. And what do I see? But literally every question that persona asks on the same landing page. It scrolled on forever. There was so much content there. And I was blown away because it was as if they were trying to do all of those different stepping stones in one massive platform. So we went back to that stepping stone metaphor and I said, okay, wait a minute. What would happen if we organize these according to the order that they are likely to ask them, right? They're going to ask this question first. So let's just build a tiny little landing page. Maybe even it's just an email newsletter with like 500 words in it, right? to answer that question. And then that leads them to the next question. And we only answer that question. And then they opt in to get an answer on the next question, and so on, step by step. Okay, again, I think this is sort of obvious now, but addressing the specific things they care about, not the general things, right? And then using the locations and channels they're already using, right? We are going to show up where they are. We are not going to build it and hope that they come. So if your people aren't using a channel, guess what? You don't have to use it either. More than that, if your people aren't using a channel to look for the solution you provide, then you don't need to be on that channel, right? It's not just, are they there? It's, are they there and are they looking for your offering? I'll give you one really clear example of this. I have seen ads on LinkedIn trying to sell me jewelry. Now, I understand why I'm seeing those ads, right? I fit a certain demographic. They imagine it will be easier to target me on LinkedIn because they can find me, right, pretty easily. The problem with this is LinkedIn is not where I do my online shopping. It could not be farther from where I do my online shopping. So instead of exploiting a clever opportunity, they really pissed me off, right? Like, I'm like, don't sell me jewelry on LinkedIn. That is not adhering to channel culture. That is not what I, as an audience member, am looking for when I'm on that site. So it's not just already using, it's already using and are relevant to your offering. Both of those. Okay. So like those stepping stones, we want to consider the journey, right? Meet them where they're at is literal when I'm talking about channels. It's literal. Where on the internet or where in the world, it doesn't have to be digital, right? This can be like old school as well, analog. Question number 1, how will they learn that we exist? Answer that question for one persona. How will they learn that we exist, right? Because we're going from 0 to 1. And then once they know that we exist, what are the channels that they're going to use to help them understand our work? Where are they going to go look for answers? And then where are they going to be as they are considering becoming a part of it? You'll see very quickly, these are different channels, right? There's some overlap in some of them, but they're actually pretty different. And they get even more different, right? When they buy, when they commit, that is a different channel altogether, maybe set of channels. And then when they are talking about us, that is a different channel as well. And what you'll see, ideally, hopefully, quite commonly, in fact, your advocates will be using similar channels to recommend you as the people who are just learning about that you exist. So what we see is that the channels that go with number 5 are often the same channels that go with number 1. Now we're starting to imagine a flywheel where the bottom of the funnel connects to the top of the funnel, right? Okay, I'm going to demonstrate this for you now with the tools that I use when I'm working with my consulting clients. If you would like access to this Google Doc, you got to email me here, lindsay@open-lines.co. I'll be happy to send you the link. That's not the last time you're going to see that email address. So let me show you what we've got here. I'm going to blow it up a little bit so you guys have a better view. Let me just double check that. How's that look? Okay, we're pretty good. So here's what's going to happen, right? The first thing we're going to do is look at each of your audience members, each of your marketing personas through the lens of their journey, right? According to some channels. So let's say we are selling, we're selling a video game to parents of kids who need to increase their attention span. This is an actual client I work with. It's pretty cool. So it's a video game. The more the kids play the video game, the better their attention span gets, and then they become better readers and better at math and all these sorts of things. So our personas that we're selling to are a skeptical parent, somebody who's seen it all before and it's not working, a proactive parent, somebody who's probably a little newer to the conversation and still optimistic about it. the professional, right? An occupational therapist, Olivia is her name, and then a pediatrician named Hillary. These are the 4 personas we're going to try to sell this to. So what we do here is we say, is Amanda going to learn about us through word of mouth? And the answer is obviously yes, right? Is she going to come to understand our work? I think that's also a yes, right? Is she going to consider becoming a part of our work? Probably word of mouth isn't going to sell her on that alone. So I'm going to say no. And I'm also going to say no here. Word of mouth is not a part of the delivery of services, but it absolutely is a big part of how she becomes an advocate, right? Okay. So that's word of mouth. Let's talk about events. Are events how she's going to learn that we exist? Maybe. Media relations. Yeah, if she sees us on the news, that might get her excited. Partnerships, somebody else could introduce us to her, right? For sure. Grant application doesn't apply in this case. Website copy. This is interesting. So website copy is a no in her learning phase. And the reason why it's a no is because if she's on your website reading your copy, she already learns that you exist and is moved on to the understanding or consideration phases. You with me? So website copy, blogs and articles, and email newsletters are never learn channels because you absolutely can't access them without already knowing that we exist. So at best, those are, right? They are absolutely understanding and considering channels. Website copy probably isn't. Blogs and articles. Actually, blogs and articles might be if we had like help articles. I'm going to go ahead and say yes to that one. Email newsletters, no. Oh, it's not true. We have an onboarding series. Okay. Is website copy. And then again, it's like maybe we'd forward a thing. Maybe not. If, right? Ish. Okay. So you see where I'm going with this, right? We're going to do that and this thing has a whole bunch of different columns. You can add or subtract or move them around however you want as suits your organization, right? And then you do it for each persona, for each journey, for each channel. There's a couple of other things I want to point out to you, okay? First of all, so we already get some channels are only available at some parts of the journey, right? The other thing is if an earned or organic channel is an option, then the paid equivalent is also an option. And I'm not saying you have to do it. This is just all we're doing here is defining the opportunity, right? But let's be honest about it. If somebody says, yes, I am searching for a solution, I'm going to use Google to do it, then obviously the paid search is also an option, right? If someone is on Facebook and is going to hear about it there, then obviously Facebook ads is also an option. Whether or not you choose to use it, that's up to you, right? But all we're trying to do here is diagnose the opportunity. Okay, so that's the first step of the process. You're going to do all of these things where you basically understand how they use each channel as relates to your product, as relates to your offering. And you're going to get to a point where it's all filled out, right? You've got everything diagnosed here. Now I'm going to zoom back out to show you the whole. So here's the big picture, right? Here's what's going to happen. The next thing is we are going to sort the columns to move all of the yeses over to the left-hand column. So the channels that have the most yellow boxes end up over on the left, and the channels that end up with the most blue boxes end up on the right. And that's how we're going to prioritize. So we see, and there's so much like awesome potential here, right? So website copy, word of mouth. I'm going to look, Facebook, let's see. Partnerships is going to go here. I'm not going to sort the whole thing, but you guys are still going to start to see how this is going to go, right? You're going to go back here. You're going to go up here. Facebook engagement is a big option. It's going up here somewhere. What else? Media is a little bit lower. I'm going to move. That one goes there. That one goes there. And then all three of those go over here. Okay. You get the gist, right? You see where I'm going with this. So the point is, we're going to just pick them up, drag them around until we've got a higher density of yellow ones on the left side, right? Okay. This partnerships needs to go back a little there. Okay, pretty close. Okay, now, what do we observe, right? What do we know is really, so this leads us to a place where we can make some really powerful observations about what channels we need to use. So if I ask you the question, right, first of all, if your boss comes to you and says, we need to have more Hillarys in our pipeline. We need more pediatricians to know about us. How do we reach pediatricians? Then the answer is to look at row 23. What does row 23 say about the opportunity to introduce ourselves to pediatricians? Word of mouth is great, difficult to control. Organic search is a solid maybe, right? Media relations is a good yes. Events and print collateral are both yeses, right? You guys have all seen those things in doctors' offices, brochures, and all that kind of stuff. So those are the opportunities. Which ones of those are going to be the most effective? Well, that depends on a few other things, right? If you are saying acquisition, that learn phase is super important for all four of your personas, then guess what? Media relations is a yes for all four. So if filling the top of the funnel is the most important thing for you, media relations is a thing you should really consider, especially if you are already doing email, blogs and articles, Facebook engagement, and partnerships, right? If all of those things are already done and you're saying, what else can we do? Media relations is the next thing. Looks to me like maybe video and Facebook ads would be the next thing. So here's what's great about it, right? First of all, we can see if we're trying to reach one particular persona at one particular phase where the opportunities are. We can see on an organizational level which channels become like obligatory and which channels we can opt in on based on our resources. But we can also see when a new opportunity comes up. Let's say somebody comes to you and says, hey, I've got, 40 hours of free video production. We want to make some testimonial videos for you. And now we have to look at this tool and say, is that useful? How would we make the best use of it, right? And the answer is absolutely useful for the consumer audiences want to see testimonial videos. So we know that's what we need to make for them. Things that will help them find us and things that will help them understand what we do. Pretty useful. It's a really simple and really powerful tool. Okay, let's go back to this now. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to revisit that audience journey from a tactical standpoint, right? Yes, maybe or no for each channel at each stage. We're just covering what I just did, right? Add or remove channels. You can always update that thing when it's your own. Obviously, some channels are only available in some parts of the journey, right? Search is a really good one. SEO is really only at the learn stage and sometimes at the understand stage. But after that, nobody's using search to dig in deeper, right? If the earned channel is a yes, the paid channel is also a yes in terms of opportunity. And then you sort them in order to reveal the opportunity. Okay. So when you're prioritizing what needs to happen first, it's good website copy, right? Blogs and articles. Then we set up an email nurture. Then we set up a Facebook. So it's like this is actually the order of your to-do list. When you get more resources or when you complete the assets needed for that thing, then you can move on to the next thing. Okay. One more thing. This is what we're aiming for, right? Your channel evaluation should reflect actual persona behavior. Remember, there's like one section for each persona. So you can separate it out, or you can like look at it as an aggregate, but it should be as close to real life, as close to things that we've proven are true. Consider your organizational strengths. Adhere to channel culture means don't sell me jewelry on LinkedIn, right? Respect your personas with frequency. If you post too much, obviously that's spammy and that's gross. If you post too little, that's also a little bit disrespectful, because you're not showing up for them in a way that that you are demonstrating that you deserve their trust. So you really have to sort of find the sweet spot and then stick to it, right? We're not going to try to attract personas to a new platform. We're not going to use standalone or isolated efforts, right? Everything should be connected in a smart way. And you really should keep your eye on the prize in terms of what can your organization reasonably do well and consistently. Because it's so easy to get, oh, we need an influencer, or, oh, we need this video production or whatever. And it's like, if that's out of range for you to do well, do some other things well and make the money that way, and then invest in those things next. Okay. So when we've done it, here's what you're going to have, right? Super on the nose understanding of which channels matter to which audiences. So we will never have any question of why we are posting on Facebook, right? We are posting on Facebook because this is how Amanda's persona learns about our tool. Always that answer, right? It should always be that clear. That's why we're posting. We understand not just which channels are important to the organization overall, but also those that are important to each individual, right? We can prioritize resources, and we get more of them or we get less of them. We know exactly when and how they should be cut, right? Okay. And then, right, indicating where new resources should be best spent. Whew, here we go. Do you know what, friends? I'm making an executive decision. I am going to skip some stuff. Let's do... I'm skipping down to practical priorities because we're close on time already. And this is, I think this is the most important part. For me, this is. Okay. So we've got our channels. Now we have like a mile long to-do list, right? It's like, oh, we've got to build out these web pages because we know the role they play. So, and we've got to get our email newsletter and get our social media, right? Like all these things, whatever it is. I want you to like focus a little bit on these like very simple rules. So rule number 1, start at the engagement channel, then do the advocate channel, and then work up by journey phase. And I'll show you what I mean. Okay. So if you're saying to yourself, okay, we have all this work to do for Amanda, where do we start, right? Where do you start? We've got all these channels. We've got all these journey phases, right? Her 5 steps. Here's where to start. Always the engagement, which is a delivery of service, right? Always that. The marketing associated with that, whether it's a fancy unboxing experience or just a really great digital payment portal, confirmation emails, whatever it is, get those right. Because if you're satisfying your customers, it will be very easy to get them to bring you more customers or to become a repeat customer themselves. So first and foremost, always pay attention to the engagement phase. And I'll tell you, in this particular case, Julia is going to, or Amanda is going to have her engagement phase is we got to get to 20 hours. When her kid has used the software for 20 hours, that's the thing that turns her into an advocate. That's the tipping point for the lasting experience, right? The lasting impact. So all of that engagement marketing is about helping her get to 20 hours. It is onboarding materials, it's support emails, it's personal contact, personal support contact. It's the unboxing experience, right? Communication she can share with her kid. It's all of those things to help her get to those 20 hours. Once we've got all of those things in place, step 2 is the advocate stage. Because as I said, we want to make it super easy for happy customers to bring us more happy customers. So that is the second. Start with engagement, then do the advocate, and then you work up by journey. Then you start with the consider content, whatever channel that's on. Then you add the understand content, whatever channel that's on. And then you add the learn channel, whatever content that's on. Now, I want to like make sure this is super clear, because especially when you've got a new strategy in place, or you've got a new product or a new audience, it's so tempting to go straight to social media. That's always the thing we want to do, because we're excited about it and we want to get it out into the world, right? But what happens if you do that? If you start at the top of the funnel with the learn that we exist content, and you go out on social media and you're like, guys, we're here, we're doing this great thing, everybody come check it out. What happens? They're going to go to find the information, find the content that tells them about how they can understand our work, and it's not going to be there. Or it's going to be a completely different message, or misaligned, or the wrong design, or whatever from what they just saw. So we're going to lose them a little bit, and then we're going to lose them a little bit more. And that's what we call a leaky funnel. What you really want is for each person who engages with your marketing to have an increasingly better experience as they go down the funnel, because that will drive them towards trusting you, towards buying your product, right? So that's why we start at the bottom of the funnel and work up as we're building new assets and prioritizing new activities. Okay. Number 2, do all of the one-time activities first. That is website updates, white papers, sales sheets, templates, forms, right? Everything that only needs to be done once and then is useful forever is a higher priority than those ongoing tweets, right? Because think about it this way. If you only have this many hours to spend, and you're spending this many on tweets and this many on those assets are going to take a lot longer to build. And the people who are seeing your tweets are not getting the benefit of those assets because they're not done yet. But if you do it this way and you say, okay, all of this is assets until it's done. And then we start adding tweets. So all of those tweets benefit from all of those assets, right? So one-time activities first, then add on the repeating activities. That's the plan. Okay. Number 3, and you've heard me, I've sort of said this in a few different ways, but I'm going to say it again, right? Consistency, right? Good consistency is the most important thing. Honestly, you can have mediocre content, but if it is consistent, you will see better results than exceptional content that is inconsistent, because people want to trust you. The longer your sales cycle is, the more precious that trust is. If you're selling, if you're like, throwing up ads and selling t-shirts and, they cycle through, 5 new designs a week or whatever, then all of this is overkill. Just watch your ad spend and optimize, right? But if you have a more nuanced offering to your audience, then we really need to make sure that everything that you're doing is consistent. It's you're showing up for them in really consistent ways. So what that means is, just sort of like I was just illustrating, do the one-time activities first, add on the things only when you know that you have the bandwidth to keep it going. And then finally, if you are measuring, which of course I recommend that you do, if you are measuring, set goals for growth, not benchmarks for achievement. You will find more success if you are focused on increasing your audience by 10 or 15% every single month than if you do a big push, climb up to 100,000 followers, and then stop. Because there's no guarantee that those 100,000 followers are actually a reflection of your people. But if you do it slow and steady and really intentionally, really clearly on making sure that you can grow your audience without decreasing your engagement rates, that is where the gold is, because those people will be with you forever. Okay, really important rules. Now, we've got an inventory, we've got an idea of how to prioritize it. I want to show you this cheat that I use that is a long-term planning tool. So here, I think, do I have it here? I thought I had it here for you. Nope. Let me just look. No, it's not there. Okay. So I'm just going to tell you about it. So here's what's going to happen. You're going to set a goal. I like 12 months is the goal, right? That's far enough in the future that there's going to be some work that we're going to have to get there, but it's close enough that we can sort of see it and conceive of it, right? We know what our business, we think we know what the size and shape of our business is going to be in 12 months. So set a goal for 12 months, name the goal, and then work backwards and say, okay, in order to get to that goal, 12 months from now, what needs to be true 9 months from now? And in order to get to that goal in 9 months, where do we need to be in 6 months? And then it gets closer. Okay, if we need to be there in 6 months, where do we need to be in 3? And this is everything. This is like marketing automation tools, new content being published, courses online, right? So you're going to do this thing, 12 months, add the benchmarks and calendar events. Then you're going to do this, right? You're going to work all the way backwards to all the way up until today. What needs to be done this month? What needs to be done by the end of September 2021 in order to be confident that by the end of September 2022, we are on the path towards this goal? This month, next month, and the month after. And then every single month, you come back to this plan and you say, did I get everything done? What needs to be done? What needs to be adjusted? How did things move? But you keep moving towards that 12-month goal and keep knocking out the things that are between you and it. This is like a really great way to separate the urgent and the important, right? If this allows you to prioritize the important. Okay. So I skipped a whole section. This is not what happened. But I'm sorry to say, don't have time for anything else. So I am going to just pull up this one more time, right? So that you've got my email address. If you want access to those tools, if you want access to the accountability script that I was talking about at the beginning, I also have a content strategy document that I was going to offer to share. Just feel free to email me and I'll share with you whatever I've got. I see a question here. Anonymous said, how do you find the sweet spot when doing posts and emails? I need a little bit more information about the sweet spot. The sweet spot in messaging or in frequency. Anonymous, can you come help me out here? I can take it to the chat. Let's see. Okay, now I'm going to catch up a little bit. If anybody wants to surface any of the chat stuff for me, that would be awesome. What is the phrase you use to describe the stepping stones? Yeah, that's kind of a journey, right? Unless it's the Japanese phrase is mire kakure, which stands for hide and reveal, right? Because it's like it's hidden from you, even though it's not really. I love you guys are making improvements on my tool. That's great. That is really cool. It's a .co. Michael, I would like to hear any insights on using these methods for technical services company. Absolutely. So this is a part of the marketing framework that I use with my consulting clients, and it applies to any organization with any relationship to their customers. So in this case, right, a technical services company, so you're going to be B2B, right? Which means the persona nuance needs to be a little bit more clear, because probably the individual that recognizes the need for your service is unlikely to be the same individual as the one that pays you for your service, right? So you've got a little bit of a buy-in problem there. So you understand the role that your different audiences play, not just in deciding whether or not to buy from you, but in convincing each other about the opportunity. And that's true for all B2B contexts, right? There's always going to be that thing where people where, you know, people who need the product or use the product are not the same as the ones who actually sign the checks. So the communication across that really needs some support. Thank you, Margaret. That's lovely. I will give a quick plug to my design team. They are called 4Fin, the number 4, F-O-U-R, Fin. They're surfers. 4Fin Creative in San Diego did the branding for Open Lines. I'm really proud of it. They did a great job. Thanks, Margaret.